Howdy, Dennis Bradford here. Let's think some about being, feeling, and doing better. What really is a personal coach or consultant? A hired friend. As I explain in my book, Love and Respect, friendship is the paradigmatic kind of love. The word love is best understood as a verb, not as a noun. To love is to act so as to benefit the beloved. In other words, if you're considering hiring a life coach, the most important criterion is whether or not that person is able to love you well. Everything else is secondary. That includes criteria such as the coach's training, experience, and even how quickly personal rapport develops. Yes, these criteria are important, but they're secondary. If so, how is it possible to tell whether or not a prospective coach has the ability to love you well? My recommendations follow. What's critical is that loving is giving. It's not taking. Therefore, the less selfish we are, the less egocentric we are, the less self-centered we are, the better able we are to love. That's true, isn't it? The more you work on yourself to reduce your own egocentricity, the more you are able to love others. Therefore, if you're wise, you're looking for a coach who has done as much ego reduction work as possible. The good news is that it's possible to determine that both for yourself and for others. I'm referring to the scale of consciousness levels developed by David R. Hawkins, MD, PhD. A personal calibration is really a snapshot of one's consciousness level. Nobody is stuck at any one level. Someone's level can rise or fall, sometimes dramatically, over time. Every entity at every moment radiates a specific frequency, or a minute energy field. This is true for every thought, belief, emotion, or image, as well as for every physical body. Dr. Hawkins and his students developed and thoroughly tested a scale or map of the different levels. He was a sage, as well as a philosopher and clinical psychiatrist who died in 2012. The amount of energy in the universe is infinite. At every moment, every human being has a calibration on a log energy scale between 1 and 1,000. The higher on the scale one calibrates, the better. That's been confirmed through self-reporting, too. Someone who calibrates at, say, 250 will be happier and enjoying life more than someone who calibrates at 150. Similarly, someone who calibrates at 550 will be happier than someone who calibrates at 350. This does not mean that someone with a higher calibration is better or more valuable or worthy as a human being than someone with a lower calibration. All humans are equally morally valuable. In fact, we all share a divine essence. It does, though, mean that the lower your calibration, the more you suffer and are dissatisfied. Therefore, to live better, raise your personal calibration. Nothing is more important than that. The higher the personal calibration of your coach, the more he or she may be able to inspire and help you. Sages or saints, such as the Buddha or Jesus Christ, calibrate between 600 and 1,000. Let's set them aside since they're less than 0.5% of the human population. Even if you happen to know one personally, it's very unlikely that that person would agree to become your personal coach. As the words human being in English suggest, to be a human being is to be split, to have one foot in the material world and the other foot in the spiritual world. On the scale, that bifurcation occurs at level 500, which is the midpoint. 1 to 499 is animalistic, whereas 500 to 1000 is spiritual. Anyone with a personal calibration under 200 is someone who is living more like an animal than an angel. It's someone suffering from a seriously disturbed egocentric personality. It's someone who is selfish and so unloving. Unfortunately, about 80 to 85% of human beings are so suffering. These people are incapable of loving others. They don't even take responsibility for their own lives. They lack integrity. The good news, though, is that the average level of humankind has slowly increased over the centuries. The more you associate with such people, below 200, the lower your odds of ever living well. Instead of inspiring you, they'll hold you down. On the other hand, people who calibrate at 500 or higher have broken into the spiritual domain of love. In fact, anyone with a personal calibration of 540 or higher is capable of unconditional love. So, these are my 2 recommendations for you if you hire a coach. First, do not hire anyone who calibrates below 200. Second, hire a coach who calibrates in the 500s or higher. What you'll find if you look seriously is that most psychiatrists, clinical psychologists, life coaches, and philosophers calibrate in the 400s. Settle for one of those only if you must. How can you tell what someone else's calibration is? Good question. You may be able to learn how to do it yourself. I explain how in my emotional empowerment video sequence, which is free. I encourage you to sign up for it. If you do, you'll receive a daily email with a link to a short video. As the weeks go by, you'll learn more and more about how to raise your own calibration, as well as how to determine the calibration of others. The videos are similar in format to this one, and all are short. Even watched at normal speed, most are under 10 minutes. Furthermore, playback times can easily be reduced. Are you ready to think hard about emotional well-being for only about 10 minutes a day? If so, here's where to sign up. https://endfearfast.com/emails/ That's not a live link. Either jot it down and later type it into a browser to sign up, or click the link that should be below this video to go there. You may be able, without additional help, to use the ideas you'll learn in that video series to raise your own calibration significantly. You may also be able to learn how to determine the calibration of others so that if you do hire a coach, you'll not be throwing away your money. In that video sequence, I provide you with different practices for both eliminating unwanted emotions such as shame, guilt, grief, fear, and anger, as well as different practices for not having to endure them in the first place. If you'd like to understand more about the so-called levels of consciousness and how to calibrate them yourself, I recommend reading Dr. Hawkins's books. Probably the best one to read first would be Power vs. Force, 1995. Then, if you want more on the different levels, read The Eye of the I, 2001, and I, 2003. If you want a general introduction, read Reality, Spirituality, and Modern Man, 2008. In case you might want to consider me as your coach, I give you in that email sequence my own personal calibration. No, I'm not a sage yet, but I'm on the threshold. I'm personally full of gratitude and have no complaints whatsoever. Whatever you do or don't do, I wish you all the best.